third perspective that we'll discuss is cognitive developmental theories. These theories argue that development proceeds because of changes in information processing and thought. In other words, thinking becomes more sophisticated as we develop. Cognitive developmental theory focuses on thought processes and the construction of knowledge. From this perspective, the key is how people think and how thinking changes over time. So this theory involves three distinct approaches. First is Piaget. We'll spend a lot of time talking about Piaget throughout the semester. Piaget suggested that we develop in discrete stages. Again, it's a stage theory, meaning it's discontinuous. Piaget's theory proposes a four-stage universal sequence of cognitive development in which the child constructs knowledge in a new way in each stage. The idea is that children are like scientists trying to figure out their world. If something doesn't make sense, they'll revise their little theory. There are some critical points in development or stages where children construct knowledge in qualitatively new ways. Again, it's discontinuous. The next is Vygotsky's social cognitive theory. Vygotsky suggests that societal expectations of what we should know at different ages and apprenticeship or working with adults shape development. So Vygotsky focuses on the ways that adults convey to children the beliefs, customs, values, and skills of their culture. Vygotsky was one of the first theorists to emphasize that children's thinking does not develop in a vacuum, but that sociocultural environment is crucial. And then last is information processing theory. This proposes that human cognition consists of mental hardware and software. Essentially, we're like computers. We become more efficient at processing information as we mature. So mental hardware will be your psychological and physiological structures such as memory capacity and neural connectivity. Mental software will be your cognitive abilities that process information and help us interact with the world. The fourth perspective that we'll discuss is ecological systems theory. This theory comes from Urie Bronfenbrenner, who argues that individual human development is inextricably intertwined with environmental or contextual factors. Bronfenbrenner says we must study the person and the environment in which he or she develops. So Bronfenbrenner really views the person as developing within a complex system of relationships that are affected by multiple levels of the surrounding environment. So Bronfenbrenner places a lot of emphasis on the context. So here you can see this is a picture of Bronfenbrenner's different systems. So we need to go through and define these. Let's start with the microsystem. The microsystem would be that innermost level of the environment. The idea is that activities, there are bidirectional relationships in the person's immediate surroundings. So the microsystem setting is that direct environment that we have in our lives. So those bidirectional relationships between a child and their parent, for example. So in this setting, we're not mere recipients of experiences, but we are contributing to the construction of the environment as well. The mesosystem is next. You see this orange circle. The mesosystem encompasses the connections between microsystems. This means that your family experience may be related to your school experience. For example, if a child is neglected by his parents, he may also have a low chance of developing positive attitudes toward his teachers. Also, this child might feel awkward in the presence of peers and might resort to withdrawal from a group of classmates. Next is the exosystem. The exosystem consists of social settings that do not contain the developing person, but that do affect the individual's experiences in immediate settings. These settings include both formal organizations and the individual's informal social networks. The macrosystem is the outermost level. It consists of cultural laws, values, customs, and resources. Now, you also should remember that Bronfenbrenner states that this system is dynamic and ever-changing. So he actually gives us another system, the chronosystem, and this is the temporal dimension of Bronfenbrenner's model. It includes the transitions and shifts in the lifespan. Think of it as it includes those life cycle forces. So it could also involve socio-historical contexts that influence a person. You know, an example here might be like if a child's parents get divorced, that first year might be really tough on the child, but year after year they'll get more used to it and become more stable again. So let's take an example and walk through Bronfenbrenner's model here. Let's take a new parent. A parent is a member of a lot of microsystems. You've got the child-parent microsystem. You've got the microsystem between that new parent and her parents. Maybe they're married, so maybe you have then the wife-husband, for example, microsystem, the patient healthcare provider microsystem. So the interrelationships between microsystems really make up that mesosystem. This is how functioning in one area of life can impact another area. So let's just make up a person. Let's say Lucy is 9 months pregnant. She and her husband have wanted a baby for a very long time, but they both work long hours in law firms. So even though they really want this baby, they haven't had time to get a nursery together, and now they're really stressed out because the baby is due and they don't feel ready. There are complex relationships between microsystems. These relationships make up the mesosystem. So here, the work microsystem is putting pressure on the husband-wife microsystem. Tensions are high. But then let's say the parents or the grandparents-to-be step in and they start getting things ready for the baby. This takes some of the pressure off. The coworkers throw a shower on Lucy's last day of work. They give her the supplies that she hasn't had time to buy yet. And this takes some of the stress off of Lucy. So even some of the stress caused by work has been alleviated, and the grandparents-to-be and the coworkers are taking some of the stress off the husband-wife microsystem. And they're also taking some of the stress off the mother-baby microsystem. We know that stress hormones affect a baby, so we've already got that mother-baby microsystem there, even though the baby's not even born yet. So the complex interactions between Lucy and her coworkers, Lucy and her parents, Lucy and her husband, and Lucy and her baby make up the mesosystem. The exosystem is just the slightly larger context that hold the mesosystems. So this might be the workplace, the law firms, their rules, their regulations. You know, do they have a maternity leave policy for Lucy? It could also be what people see on their local TV that impact their behavior. So community attitudes toward child rearing, city moms versus suburban moms, that kind of thing. And then the next layer of the context is the macro environmental context. So this is that outer circle, and here we find the wider social structures, governmental agencies and policies that they enact. These may or may not directly impact the person, but they are going to trickle down and affect the person and their more immediate social context. Things like SES, cultural attitudes about women, work, and childbearing, childbearing? Is there a mandatory paid maternity leave policy in the United States? All of that will affect the microsystem. So here you can see all the arrows, and you see that there's bidirectional relationships between these different systems. So Bronfenbrenner's theory is very dependent on culture and puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of it.